All right, I believe we are live. Testing, audio testing. Please let me know if the audio sound is okay and the video is okay and all the things are okay. My name is Frankie. This is Coffee with Frankie. This is the coffee. I am the Frankie. It is Sunday morning, September 1st. Happy New Month Day. 10 a.m. on the eastern seaboard. If you can hear the sound of my voice, please let me know if the sound is coming in okay. We had some problems on Friday night, the Friday night hang. So please let me know if this microphone is working better. Indy Jets is here. Indy, if you can hear me, please let me know in the chat. Please let me know if the audio is working okay, so that we can proceed with our programming. Need to know. It should be okay, but you never know these days. I don't want to start talking and then it's not working when we could fix it right up front, hopefully, though. Don't know. What happened on Friday night is that, okay, good. Sounds great. The Back It Up Binge podcast. Okay, good. Thank you. Indy sounds great. Okay, good. Thank you. We had a problem on Friday night, and it turned out it was the microphone or the microphone wire, which I didn't have enough time to test, unfortunately. But one of those two things was causing significant problems, and so we had to go to our backup mic. Of course, you got to have a backup microphone these days. You can't just have one microphone. You got one, you got none. So this is old reliable that I'm using here, Rode Podcaster mic that I've had for seems like decades. This is like the backup mic, but it's old reliable. You know, not fancy, gets the job done. Okay, well, it's good to know that is working. Okay, so we have a camera, we got a microphone, we got some folks in the chat. Indy Jet, the Back It Up Binge podcast. Good to see you, first time. And what we could do, I thought we would go through some top topics, and then we'll do some Q&A. I do have to probably cut it relatively short today because I have to start studying for my final exam. So yesterday, one of the things I did was pass an exam. Hooray! And the good news is that means there's just one exam left for me to pass. That's what I got to do. So I got one more. I'm going to get to studying right after this show, and the hope is that I can pass the exam kind of before the Jet season starts on Monday, next Monday. And so that way I'll get all of my schoolwork done. I'll just have one more project after that, but no more exams. So hopefully I'll get all my studying done, pass the exam, and move forward. All right, so that being said, let's do a few top topics, then we'll do Q&A. Hopefully more folks will roll in as time goes on with some Q's, and maybe I'll have some A's, but you never know. Indy Jet says, old and steady wins the race. Yeah. Yeah, back it up. I'm studying for my MBA, the Master's in Business. Master's in Business. What's the A stand for? Administration. Master's in Business Administration, MBA. Long time coming, and it's going to be quite advantageous for the career that I have, and it's been something I've been needing to get for a while. So it's quite a relief to be close to the end of this thing. So yeah, MBA. So then I guess you guys should, after I get it, you guys should call me Master. No, just kidding. Now let's see if the graduate student can figure out how to share screen. Let's see. Entire screen. Also share system audio. Yes. And I want screen number 2. Let's see if this works. Ta-da. Okay, yeah, that seemed to work. Okay. Back It Up says he's a CPA and an MBA. So those who don't know, CPA is the accounting folks. Let me tell you something, Back It Up. The accounting class I had to take for the MBA almost killed me, man. I'm not naturally, people might find this funny, but I'm not naturally, longtime listeners, I'm not naturally a numbers guy. Uh, so the CPA, the accounting class I had to take for the MBA, boy, that almost killed me, man. It was just, there was so much information where I was like, if I was wanting to be a CPA, then this information would be great for me to study. But I don't want to be a CPA. I just want to, I just want to get my MBA. But anyway, they make you learn all this stuff that's to me a CPA's domain. But hey, what do I know? But I passed, so can't complain too much. But yeah. Um, so what are we looking at here in terms of the news item? We got this news item. Oh, where's my bell? Hang on a second. The bell is missing. Hang on 1 second. How can I forget the bell? I mean, you do a show, you need a bell. Well, the problem is when you take these exams, they make you take everything off of your desk. You know what I mean? Because they got to proctor it, and so I got to take the bell off the desk. Yeah, yeah, right. We got to be careful, Indy. We got a CPA around. That's what I'm saying. I got to be careful. Maybe I'm not going to break down too many spreadsheets today. The CPA is here. You might say, Frankie, actually, yeah. But I don't think we have any math in this program. Anyway, so news item. Let me know if you can hear the bell. Um, Brian Costello, because right here. He points out to a New York Post has an article today inside the Egyptian themed New York City compound that's home to an extremist UFO cult and could be yours for only $6 million. $6 million. And Costello says so they need a buyer with some cash, an interest in Egypt, and a belief in UFOs. I might know a guy. So who do you think he's talking about? Who do you think he's talking about? Aaron Rodgers. So he's making a funny about our quarterback. But nonetheless, if they did a crowdsourcing, I would be interested in buying this. I mean, look at it. What's funny about this picture is look at this compound. And then, like, right here, here's like a normal New York City building, like right here. So imagine you're this guy. Imagine you're living right here, right? You got a window, okay? You got a door to your apartment right here. Walking in, and every day you got to walk past this Egyptian place, trying to be ancient Egypt with all the symbology and this and that, and all this cool stuff. Well, I think it's cool, but might not be so cool if you're living next door to it. And what do they do in this extremist UFO cult? What exactly are they doing? What I mean, how do you classify as a extremist UFO cult? What activities might you do? I mean, just because you believe in UFOs are a thing, and if you understand Fermi's paradox, you would understand it's not really extremist to believe in UFOs. UFO just means unidentified flying object. Just means we don't know what it is. It's flying around there. So what's so extremist about it? What's so extremist about it? Harry's here, Harry W., one of the OGs of the Frankie channel. Good morning to you, Harry. We're talking about one of our beat writers making fun of our quarterback right here. It's not so nice. Now, I think Brian Costello is one of these guys. Don't you think Brian Costello is one of these guys who eats a lot of hot pockets? Eats a lot of hot pockets and Diet Coke. That's what I think. That's what I think. He's big on the hot pockets. Probably chows down about 4 of those a day. He's big on the hot pockets. But anyway, I think it's, I don't know, if they crowdsource it, I think we should invest. This should be an investment of the Jets faithful. Don't we want a compound? Anytime the media calls something a compound, this is a New York City compound. Well, how does a building become a compound? I don't know. But when they want to make it sound ominous, they call it a compound. So that tells me I want in there. What's going on in there? I want to figure it out. Let's. All right. Well, Brian Costello starts us off with some humor. Humor. All right. Let's do some sporty business. There's a lot going on in the sporty business segment of this program in terms of the things that we cover. Let's cover a few items from sporty business. Then we'll do Q&A, and then we'll get out of here so I can study for my last exam that I have to pass. All right. Next topic. Let's talk about this. The NFL welcomes the PE barbarians. So last week we covered the private equity story. That's what they're talking about here, PE. Now, TL is here. He says, what about Ricky Pearsall? Yeah, he got shot, but he's okay. So thank goodness for that. And he will miss, obviously, our game. He should be out minimum 4 to 5 weeks. Depending on, where he got hit and how bad it is. But yeah, crazy story. He was getting robbed, and a guy had a gun. They fought over the gun apparently, and they both got shot. And the other guys are going to go to jail for a long time, hopefully. So that's Ricky Pearsall. That's an unfortunate incident. But what we're talking about here is the NFL welcomes the PE barbarians. So we covered the story about private equity last week and entering the NFL. And even I got some comments on Twitter about that PE is terrible. It's very bad that the NFL is letting this in there. And so a lot of people do feel that way. But in this article by Front Office Sports by Daniel Roberts, says fans will barely see any change from the arrival of PE money. So let's take a look at this story. I thought I had this pulled up. So it says, as the NFL owners gathered in Minnesota this week, they voted 31-1 to allow private equity firms to buy ownership stakes in teams. And there was a book about this called The Barbarians at the Gate. And this person says it's the greatest business book of all time. That's quite a claim. Quite a claim to make. But in his opinion, the greatest business book of all time, Barbarians at the Gate. And it talks about how there were all these infamous buyouts and by PE firms, Goldberg, Kravis, and Roberts. Firm is being sued currently, and all these things about corporate raiders, like KKR and its PE peers. But now the corporate raiders can buy into the NFL's Raiders or any other team that will have them, but probably not the Bengals, the lone dissent in the vote, so they were the one. But now the NFL has let these barbarians in. But it's being described as a meaningful shift in the position by the league, but it won't really mean much for the typical sports fan because PE investors in NFL clubs won't have any voting power, influence, or say. Well, those things are all the same thing, but okay. In the team's operations, they won't be the faces of the teams, and they won't have any governance rights. Each team is limited to a 10% stake, whereas the NBA and MLB allow 30%. And no individual or group can own 7.5% of any league-approved fund. These are like funds that the NFL approves for stadiums and such, which means no individual from this new cadre will own more than 0.75% of a team. A team's most devoted fans will probably never catch a glimpse of the silent partner, Suits, who bought into behind the curtain, bought in behind the curtain. And Roger Goodell says all it is a silent position that allows access to capital. So here they're not calling it liquidity, they're calling it capital. That means, as we've discussed on this channel, straight cash, homie. So when we hear capital or liquidity, it just means, as Randy Moss would say, straight cash, homie. Nate is here. Good to see Nate. How are you, buddy? Morning mocha with Frankie. Yeah, you got to stay caffeinated, right? Got to stay caffeinated. So what's in it for private equity? Well, for starters, it's basically guaranteed investment. No investment is ever guaranteed, but NFL team valuations have risen steadily every year, and they're up an average of 11% from just over a year ago. And we saw last week that the Johnsons bought the Jets for about, I think it was $640 million, and it's now up over, I think it's 6.3 billion. So that's quite an investment. Quite an investment. Owning a piece of an NFL team is the closest thing a group of rich people can get to a sure bet. And it's also a vanity play. Blah, blah, blah. So the NFL is saying, well, look, we did it the smart way. So I think that the answer to those people who were telling me all about PE firms and how bad they are, and they're going to do this, they're going to control the team, they're going to have all sorts of say in the operations, which is the comments I got on Twitter. Well, that, according to the NFL, that's not going to happen. They're not allowed to have any say. They only have a small percentage of the team, and they're just going to be silent partners who sit there and do nothing. And basically, the owners are going to get liquidity in order to do good things for the Jets. I think this is a good thing for the Jets. I think that our reporters, our beat reporters, instead of doing things like this and saying stupid things, what about UFOs and Aaron Rodgers and let's poke Aaron Rodgers, why don't they ask Woody, request to get Woody behind the mic? This is a big story. They have to request that they want to talk to, XYZ person. But they should put in a request to talk to Woody Johnson and say, Woody, do you have any plans to sell any part of the team to private equity? Because Woody, it could be a win-win. Woody could get back his entire initial investment pretty much with the 10% stake and then get liquidity, which he could use for the signing bonuses for our players that are coming up that need new contracts soon, like Sauce and Garrett and AVT and all the young guys we got and want to keep. One way to help do that with the salary cap, as we all know, and we have the CPA in the chat. He can tell me if I'm lying. But one of the ways you could do it is you just have a gigantic signing bonus. Big fat signing bonus, spread it out over the length of the contract. That lowers the cap hit for each year. But to do that, you need that liquidity to write the check, that big fat check, today. You can't have it in long-term investments. It's got to be liquid, got to be money, cash, straight cash, homie. So our vaunted and super smart beat writers like Brian Costello, the hot pocket monster, instead of coming up with stupid quips about our quarterback, maybe he could come up with an idea like maybe we should ask Woody Johnson about this, which would be very important because we want to keep as many of those young players as possible. This could be one way to do that. And so you'd want to ask Woody, are you interested in this? Do you have enough liquidity to pay all these people a big fat signing bonus when it's Garrett and Sauce and AVT and this one and that one? Michael Carter, there's so many. JJ, we got to sign all these people. We want to anyway. Are you going to have enough liquidity to do so? This would be a good question to ask, I think, for our beat writers. Instead, they're making quips about, our quarterback in Egypt and UFOs. Let's see what our CPA has to say here. PE firms are all about the exit. Yeah. Well, that's true, and they're not going to be able to exit according to this, until 6 years. But at that point, they may say, "Okay, that's fine. and then 6 years we'll exit. We'll get out of there. And then I guess it'll be sold to some other PE firm who wants in. But if that's all they do, that's fine by me. Back it up, right? Like if this is all they do, they just buy at 10%, give us liquidity, which we need, right? And then the team goes up in value in 6 years. Let's say they're going up in value. It says in this article, 11% per year. So that's quite an investment. You put in 650 million, goes up what, 10, 12% a year? That's excellent returns. Then 6 years down the road, you get an exit, find some other PE firm that wants in. They buy you out. Boom. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? And then Woody gets another infusion of cash, liquidity, straight cash, homie. So if that's all that happens, I'm happy with that. I don't see how that's a bad thing. The comments I was getting on Twitter were like the negative toward the PE firms. It's saying they're going to slash costs, they're going to do this, do that, and they're not going to do any of those things as far as we know. At least that's what's being reported. We got to see what happens. Maybe things will change. But as far as we can tell right now, based on these reports, it seems like a good thing. But the thing I want to stress about all this, I think our beat writers should want to talk to Woody. This is a big story. Maybe because most football fans are not not really concerned about this, but somebody needs to be talking to Woody about this. I mean, the financial side of things is important to the football side of things. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to link up that the business side of the game of sports, and in particular the Jets, is important, especially in the NFL. Now we're going to talk about the National Women's Soccer League, which is interesting and different. But the NFL, as we all know, has a salary cap and a salary floor, and the teams have to abide by that. And one of the ways that you have an advantage as an owner and as a franchise is if your owner or whoever owns the team, whatever group, if they have a lot of liquidity to pay and a willingness, some people have it, they don't want to, and a willingness to pay these large signing bonuses, you have an advantage over other teams because you can manage your cap better. But you have to have an owner or ownership group that has the money, the cash, straight cash, homie, available and on hand, and they're willing to write those checks. So those are very important questions as to whether we can keep Michael Carter II and Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner and AVT and JJ and all these young guys. But are any of our beat writers doing that? No, they're not. Next story. Should probably have sequenced this better, but the next story, this is about, so college football is here, has started, and we talked last week about the Pac-12 is dead. Well, the Pac-12 is not dead. In fact, they started calling it the Pac-2, but the Pac-12, in fact, is alive. It came back to life. By this time last year, all but 2 schools had announced plans to leave the Pac-12, and everybody thought, okay, well, the Pac-12's over. Well, conference failed to deliver a desirable media rights deal, prompting members to defect to the Big 12. A lot of them did, and UCF is in the Big 12. 1-0 UCF is, by the way. Big 10 and even the ACC, like Stanford, which is ridiculous. So the 2 that were left were Oregon State and Washington State, and they could have allowed the Pac-12 to disintegrate. Instead, they've developed a plan to keep the group alive. The conference went to court to win control of the Pac-12 assets and intellectual property. Yes, that means 2 schools get to keep the name the Pac-12, even though the colloquial nickname has become the Pac-2. It promoted longtime executive Teresa Gould to be the next commissioner, revamped the struggling Pac-12 networks into an entity called Pac-12 Enterprises, and found home for its Olympic sports in the West Coast Conference for the next 2 years. But Pac-12 football will fight to live another day as well. So the Pac-12 is not dead after all. Under the conference banner, the 2 schools negotiated a scheduling partnership deal with the Mountain West, allowing them to fill the majority of their schedules with the nearby quality Group of 5 teams. Conference also inked a modest media deal to show home games on the national stage. So this seems like they're barely treading water, but the Pac-12 could be alive. And basically, what's going to happen is if the Pac 12 survives long term, they're probably going to have to merge with this Mountain West. We'll see, but this is just another story about the evolving landscape of college football. And there's a lot of stuff going on in college football. But I thought it was interesting that the Pac 12 that we thought was dead is not, in fact, dead. So this says they've agreed to a partnership for a schedule difficult enough to contend with for an at-large bid in the CFP. That's the College Football Playoff. That's also starting this year. There's going to be a 12-team playoff, very brand new, and we're going to see what's going to go on with that. And they're trying to make the best of it, saying, hey, we're keeping this alive. We have the intellectual property to do so. And they also are going to have a media deal with Fox and the CW, whatever that is, especially for Oregon State and Washington State. So we'll see what becomes of this. But the Pac 12, especially if it merges with the Mountain West, could be the new Pac 12. So they could basically have a new Pac 12, I think. Indy says the beat writers come up with stories of, yeah, right. They just come up with all this BS instead of covering the real stuff. All right, next news story. Now, this is interesting to me. The National Women's Soccer League. How does this pertain to the? Well, you'll see. The National Women's Soccer League is picking players over parity. I personally think this is a mistake. How will the fans respond? So it says the fast-growing league aligns with global soccer norms and separates itself from other U.S. pro properties. But the on-field competitive balance could now stand at heightened risk. So this says here, player drafts in pro sports have been a particularly U.S.-based concept centered on promoting on-field competitive balance. The NWSL is abandoning that in a dramatic fashion in service of much bigger aspirations. The league's newly signed 4-year extension of its labor agreement with the Players Association eliminates both the draft and player trades without consent and arrived 2 years before the expiration of the current term. In doing so, the NWSL became the largest pro sports league to eliminate its draft. But the decision to end the draft brings the league much closer to the rest of pro soccer around the world, and is aimed in part in better positioning the NWSL as the location of choice for the very best women's player talent. So the commissioner, Jessica Berman, said, given our vision to be the best league in the world, we determined that this was the right time to align with global standards. They're aligning with global standards to achieve long-term labor peace. This CBA gives us agency over our business and gives the players agency over their careers. The move also positions the NWSL in line with FIFA's regulations on the status and transfer of players and is premised fundamentally on granting unrestricted free agency to all players. Now, and then, of course, the labor unions all said, yep, we're in support of that. But the downside is it separates itself from most U.S. properties, including Major League Soccer, and the draft is seen as such an important tool to promote competitive balance that MLB, in its most recent labor agreement, joined the NBA and NHL in introducing a draft lottery to discourage tanking. So this is something that is sort of a back burner issue for the NFL. There are some people who think the draft is some antiquated thing. It's like slavery, they say. Hey, after all, these owners are owning these players. That sounds very slavery-like. Well, it's obviously not slavery because they have a choice not to play, right? But also, you have to have competitive balance. So the downside of this is competitive balance. Extensive focus on competitive balance is the key. Because if you don't, what happens? What's going to happen with this league? Well, it's going to wind up like the Premier League. So let's take the Premier League is the number one league in England for what they call footy. And our friend Phil Adams is over there in England. By the way, our friend, the great Phil Adams, in case you don't know and you weren't with us on Friday, he hasn't had internet for over a week. No internet service for the great Phil Adams for over a week, he told me. He had to send it. He sent me an email via his phone. He got no internet, but I guess he has cell phone service, so that's good. So, in case you're wondering, where's Phil Adams been? Well, he has no internet for a week. What are they doing over there? Indy Jets reminds us, hit the like button. Yeah, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. We're trying to grow the channel, so any support you could give us would be greatly appreciated. Please do hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel. Now, what's the problem? You might say, well, that all sounds great for the players, so which it does. So what's the problem? This is the problem right here. As you can see, the Premier League, let me make this a little bigger. The Premier League, which is the primary soccer, as we call it, league in England, these are the teams that have won titles in that league. Now, understand this league has about 20 teams in it. It's a big league, pretty big league. I think it's 20 plus teams. So Manchester United's won 13, Manchester City's won 8, Chelsea's won 5, Arsenal 3, and these other 3 teams won. And the other teams have 0. And this is what happens because these 2 teams in particular buy the best players. Let's look at here's the list of champions. So Manchester City is now dominant in this league, and they pay the most. They buy the best players. There's no draft. They just pay you the most money because they have the most money. They get money from, I think, a sovereign fund. Man City, Man City, Man City. Liverpool snuck in there. Man City, Man City. And I think this is when they were bought by, the big money people. Man City. And then before that, it was Manchester United that was really the dominant. So you see here, Manchester United, and then Chelsea, Chelsea, Chelsea. So there's very few teams that actually can win in a league like this. So the question is, how is anybody going to want to watch the National Women's Soccer League? Good for the players. They're going to get more money. Okay, great. Why am I going to watch this league? Why am I going to watch? I was hoping they had like a picture or something. Why am I going to watch this league when there's no competitive balance and the best teams are going to be the ones who just give the most money to the best players? They just buy all the best players. That's like the Yankees back in the day. Why were the Yankees so great way back in the day when it was Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle and DiMaggio and Whitey Ford and this one and that one, Yogi Berra and all these people were on the Yankees, and there was hardly any people on any of the other teams who were any good. Why was that? Well, they gave them the most money. There was no draft. There was no cap. And you just gave people the most money. So the Yankees just found the best players and said, here's the most money, and we're going to have the best team. Was that good for baseball? I don't think so. You need competitive balance. And so I think that this is a mistake. We're going to find out. Now, I will not watch this league, but there may be a market for it. So, for example, I asked Phil Adams, the great Phil Adams, why does anybody watch this? What's going on with this league here, the Premier League? It used to be a great league, he said. I said, well, why does anybody watch it anymore? And he said, I don't know, but one of the reasons that Phil Adams is a Jet fan is because of this. Phil said, I used to be a huge, they call it footy. I used to be a huge footy fan. Watch the footy match. Are we watching the footy match on the telly, love? And by the way, whoever came up with that, where you can call somebody love, is a genius. Imagine being able to call women love and they don't get offended. Somebody you just met. Hello, love. That's brilliant. Um, but anyway, the point is, the point is that he used to be a big soccer fan, what we call soccer, and this turned him off. He was like, this is ridiculous. The team with the most money wins every year. This is stupid. And he started looking around for alternatives. There is something called the European League of Football, which is American football in Europe. Go Ryan Fire. But you watch those games, they're terrible. Guys can't even throw the ball. So that's no good. So he became a Jet fan. He turned to the NFL and said, okay, let's see what this is all about. And I think a lot more people are doing that. If you watched Tom Grossi's video where he goes over to several places over in Europe, and he has fans himself. Tom Grossi, he's a football NFL YouTuber. He's a Green Bay Packer fan, but he's basically an NFL YouTuber. He went over to Europe and he got huge crowds at these events that he did in Europe for an NFL YouTuber from America, right? So I think that and you see what the NFL is doing. It wants to do more games over there. They're going to have a PR nightmare with this Brazil situation, potentially. But they want to expand the game over there. And one of the reasons they probably see an opportunity to do that is because of the stupidity of leagues like this. I think now markets are markets, and it's not up to me to determine what a market will do. But it seems to me that people have to get tired of this. Why would you watch this? Oh, Manchester City wins again. I mean, we're even getting a little tired of the Chiefs at this point, but they've only won, what, two in a row? You know, and I guess there's something to be said for a dynasty if you can become a dynasty in a league with fairness rules, competitive balance rules. But this, where you could just buy a team and buy all the best players and you win, why is that good? What kind of fans are going to support this? So this comes back to the fans. The fans should not support the Premier League or any league like this. And in my opinion, they shouldn't support this league. I say no go on the NWSL because we want competitive balance. We do not want complete free agency for the players. We want the players to make a lot of money, don't get me wrong. Of course, we're always in favor of the players making as much money as possible, but it has to be done in a fair, competitive, balanced way where the teams have a way to improve and get better and compete for a title every single year. I don't see why that's particularly controversial, but that's the way the NWSL is, and that's the way some people want the NFL to go. And we need to be careful about that. We don't want the NFL to do that in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. Indy says women don't want women's sports to be successful. Well, I don't know about that, Indy. I mean, look, they're conforming to the FIFA standards. FIFA is the global organization for soccer rules or whatever. And they're just saying, look, this is what FIFA says. And it goes for the men's league. So the Premier League is a men's league. So why would the women not want women's sports to be successful? I don't know what's going on with the WNBA, Indy. The WNBA is weird to me. It seems like they've just begun to be successful. Caitlin Clark comes in and brings a lot of excitement, as far as I could tell. But at the same time, the WNBA has never been profitable. The WNBA is funded by the NBA, which is very profitable. So I don't know. I don't know what is going on with the WNBA. Maybe some people are, I guess, jealous of Caitlin Clark. I don't know why. She seems like she just goes out there and shoots three-pointers. But what's the problem with Caitlin Clark, India? That's the thing I don't get. Doesn't she just go out there, shoot three-pointers like Steph Curry and hit them? Like, why are people mad about that? And people are fans seem to really like Caitlin Clark. She doesn't do anything bad. All she does is go out there and dominate. So what's the problem? That's what I don't get. And so maybe some of the other athletes are jealous or something. I don't know. But nonetheless, that's strange. I think that's going to get worked out, India. There's something wrong there. Caitlin Clark just goes out there, dominates. It's like if, it's like people would be jealous of LeBron James or Steph Curry. It's like, look, they're just dominating the sport. It is what it is. You get somebody who's the best, they're the best. I mean, look at LeBron James. Everybody from high school on knew this kid was going to be the best, one of the best players ever. He was just different, right? He just had a different body type and different skill set, and everybody knew from the time he was in high school he was going to dominate the NBA and be a Hall of Fame player, and that's exactly what happened. But nobody, I'm sure people are jealous or whatever. I don't know, but you didn't have sort of any of the negative publicity that Caitlin Clark seems to have. She's a little Steph, a little Magic. Yeah, well, that's even better. So I don't know what the problem is. People should be happy. See, like if anybody who's upset about Caitlin Clark coming into the league is really short-sighted and dumb, in my opinion. What you want is somebody like this in your league. Like the problem with the women's NBA, every time I look at it, it's not the product is not good. They're fumbling the ball, they're missing layups, they're looking unathletic. So if Caitlin Clark and I'm like, this is as a product, it's not. I'm not interested in this product. But if you have somebody like Caitlin Clark, she comes in. Okay, maybe she's a notch above than the normal competition. She can shoot like Steph Curry, and she can pass like Magic Johnson. And okay, you need more of those people in the league to get people like me to watch it. I'm not watching it right now, and I won't because every time I look at it, it's a terrible product. Even the highlights that they show on Twitter or whatever, and they're like, "Look at this amazing." I'm like, "That's not that amazing." It's really not. And these people are not that athletic. And I have an alternative. If I really wanted to watch amazing athletic basketball, I would just turn on the NBA. What's the point of watching a lesser league where the players don't do as amazing things? I mean, I want to watch Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and all these amazing guys. Or gals if they were amazing. I don't care. But you got to be amazing to get my attention. I'm not watching just to watch. I got things to do. So maybe Caitlin Clark is the first, um, basically step up in quality for the league. Well, if that's the case, these people should be happy because she's going to make more people watch the league. And that's going to, in the end, be better for all of them. Yeah, and they probably need 10 or 12 Caitlin Clarks, not just one. You need a Caitlin Clark on every team. You know, back in the day, it was awesome when Jordan would face off against Magic or Magic and Bird. Remember that back in the day when Magic and Bird, those rivalries, the Celtics and the Lakers. I mean, that was amazing. And Jordan against the Knicks, we could never beat that guy. I mean, that was an amazing thing to have in the league where we had an amazing team with Patrick Ewing and all these guys, and we could never beat Michael freaking Jordan. But every time it came on, you wanted to watch it, right? Because you wanted to see us beat that guy. And he would just always beat us because he was just that good. But there were all these rivalries. If you remember, it was the Detroit Pistons, and early in Jordan's career, he couldn't get past the Pistons. Remember that? And they would always rough him up. And the bad boys of the Pistons. So you had that rivalry. But you need players comparable on other teams. You can't have just one Caitlin Clark. You need about 10 or 12 of them, on other teams sprinkled around so you could have these rivalries. But if this is the start of it, people should be happy. Like, all right, we got one at least that people want to watch. Not just one. So I don't think it really has anything to do with women's sports necessarily. I think there's something weird going on in the WNBA as far as I can tell. I don't know. But I don't know what it is about it. But they should be welcoming Caitlin Clark. If she's Steph and Magic together, then they should say, "Great, we got one," and they should say, "Where's the other ones? we need more of these. We don't need less. We need more." So more people will watch, and maybe the league can become profitable on its own and not be, the subsidiary essentially of the NBA, where the NBA has to fund it. But nonetheless, I do not like this situation for this soccer league. So let me know what you think about Should the NBA should the NFL do this? Stop sharing. Okay. What about the NFL? What if people start saying, "Well, the NFL should do away with the draft because it's no good. We need agency for all the players. They need to be able to move wherever they're going to move around. Get rid of the draft. Get rid of trades. That's terrible." So that's the news portion. Now we'll go to Q&A. Let's see if I can change this. Let's see if this works. Oh, look at that. That's pretty good. Q&A. Ask questions in the chat. Let's be explicit about it. Indy says, and Angel Reese is just garbage, but they trying to force it as the rivalry. Well, look, man, you can't force it. I mean, it's gotta evolve naturally. I mean, unless the NBA, arranged the bad boy Pistons against Michael Jordan, like that just kind of happened, where the Pistons had all these thugs, basically, and Isaiah Thomas. It was basically the thugs and Isaiah Thomas show, and they had no chance to beat him, so they just beat him up, right? And that's when Michael and the rest of the Bulls started lifting weights and all that stuff. So I don't know. If you try to force a rivalry, I don't think that really works. All right, so let me know if you have any questions in the chat. The main thing in the NFL, Ricky Pearsall was shot yesterday. Shocking news last night as we were watching some college football. He is all right, in case you have not heard. Thank goodness. But he will miss the Jets game. That's how it pertains to the Jets. But more importantly, he's going to be okay. The person who attacked him is going to be arrested and hopefully spends time in jail, a lot of time. But Pearsall's going to be out. Ayuk is going to be in. Ayuk signed his contract. He's going to be in. But Trent Williams, we don't know about. Indy says, who are we going to lose to? Well, we could lose to the 49ers. That's one. But if they don't have Trent Williams, that's going to be to our advantage. Trent Williams, for those who don't know, is probably the best left tackle in all of football. He wants to get paid, according to Josina Anderson. So they got to give him a big contract, and they got to work that out before, next Monday. So we'll see. So we could lose to them. So if they don't have him, we have a better shot. But they have the best. So those who don't know, Mike Clay ranks all the rosters in the NFL, and he does that every year. As of right now, he has the 49ers number 1 best roster in the NFL, and he has the Jets number 2. So it's going to be, I could see us losing to them. We're on the road. They're at home. They have the NFL's best roster, and they're coming off a Super Bowl run. But on the other hand, Ayuk hasn't been in training camp. Williams is still out. CMC has a calf. We don't know how he's going to be. They also probably will not have Hufanga. They definitely won't have Dre Greenlaw. So their team's a little banged up. Elijah Mitchell is out, their other running back. So they have a lot of people out. Pearsall obviously will be out. So we'll see. So we could lose to them. All the other games we're going to be favored. Every single one. After week 1, every single game we should be favored. I don't know what Vegas is going to do, but based on roster versus roster, we should be favored to win. And so, it's hard to go 15-2, Indy. Even with that, you got to figure you get some surprise outcomes sometimes. Even if you're favored, doesn't mean you win. So I would say that the realistic way to think about it is probably 11, 12 wins, which should be plenty good enough to maybe even win the East. Hopefully we do well against the Eastern Division rivals. We could go 15-2, but that would be optimal if everything goes right. I would say we've never gone 5-1 even in the East. I think Nania said today on Twitter. We've never in our history even gone 5-1. So 6-0 is probably unrealistic. We probably will lose. I would say we'll almost definitely. So one of the games we're going to lose is probably to the Dolphins. So the Dolphins gave us a lot of problems last year. We did some film study on Friday night. We could do that now, but I got to get to studying. But if you look at the Dolphins game, they handled us very well last year, if you remember, from their offense against our defense perspective. And what do you think the 49ers are going to do, for example? So the Dolphins already have that film. They know what to do against us. And the 49ers are going to look at that. Shanahan and McDaniel are buds, right? So, I mean, not that that really matters, but they're going to look at the film and say, what did the Dolphins do to the Jets last year? Let's do the same thing. So the 49ers are going to do that against us, which is basically short game, quick game, and runs up the middle using inside zone and duo blocking schemes. So that's what they're going to do. And so I don't see it. I don't see it. All right, let me know why you think we're going to sweep the Finns when they killed us last year. They killed us. I mean, they had our number. And you can see why. So the key really is the quick trigger of Tua. Tua gets rid of the ball very fast. And what does that do? That negates our pass rush, which is very good. But if you get rid of the ball very quickly, we got no chance to get to you, right? But one of the best in the whole league of getting rid of the ball quickly and accurately and on time and all that is Tua. Jets and Giants fan is here. Welcome back, Frankie. You were missed, my friend. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be back. Jets and Giants fan. Glad to be back. Let me know, Indy, why you think, or more importantly, how you think we're going to sweep the Dolphins. I mean, they had our number last year, and they had our number for a very specific reason. When you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they also now have picked up Mike. Did they pick up Mike Gesicki? Yeah, I think they picked up. No, they didn't. They picked up Jonnu Smith, and I think he's healthy. So, and then they have the running backs, Mostert and Achane, and they also have Jalen Wright that they picked up in the draft, another fast running back. All those people are going to catch passes, quick passes from Tua that negate their not so great offensive line and negate our pass rush with our wide nine attack. And why won't they just do the same thing? Now, maybe we could win a shootout, right? Our offense is going to be better. God damn it, better be. It kind of has to be. We had a historically terrible offense. So maybe we could win a shootout. Maybe we win one out of two. We win a shootout. Oh, you're talking about the heat advantage. Yeah. So what we could hope for is we win a shootout in Miami, right? Because their defense is questionable at this point. Their offense is going to be great. I don't think there's any question about that. At this point in time, their defense is questionable. They're not going to get Bradley Chubb back anytime soon. It looks like Jalen Phillips will be back, but we don't know exactly when. But he's ahead of Chubb coming back. But their defense lost a lot. They lost Christian Watkins. They lost Xavier, the X-Man, the cornerback. They lost a bunch of linebackers. The one they signed from the Buccaneers retired on them. So their defense is a little shaky, I think, at the moment until we see otherwise. And they have a new defensive coordinator, their third new one in 3 years. So they keep switching out these defensive coordinators. So their defense may be suspect, and our offense should be much better. So maybe the way to think about it is, we hope we win a shootout in Miami. And that's the way we win that game because they got our number, I think. Their offense against our defense, I think they have our number. They know how to attack us. Now, we'll see. Maybe we'll make an adjustment from last year because I think Ulbrich and Saleh have to be thinking, boy, how do we solve this? Because they got to solve it, God damn it. So maybe they'll adjust. But let's just say they don't or they're not able to, and the Dolphins put up a lot of points. Well, we could put up a lot of points with Aaron Rodgers. So maybe we win a shootout in the Miami game. And then what you're saying is Tua has not proven that he can do well in the cold. So then we win the one in the cold game because he's not as good in the cold weather, let's say. On the other hand, a lot of times these things like that, they, like the player, I'm sure that Tua knows this, right? So whatever it is about the cold weather, he's probably going to try some kind of strategy to improve. I don't know what that is exactly, or maybe he just is going to stink in the cold weather forever. I don't know. So, and he said they won last year because they had the ball 16 minutes more. Well, that's true. That's partially true. So the offense is going to help. Having a good offense is going to help our defense. But they also attacked our defense very well, and that should be acknowledged. Like, we shouldn't be Pollyanna about the fact that their offense attacked our defense very well. We should understand that. It's true that offense helps defense. That's true. So, like, our offense has got to stay on the damn field, like, and that'll keep our defense rested and just off the field. And so we should be able to compete better with a more balanced team. That's true. But they also did attack our defense very well, and we should acknowledge that. We don't have to be Pollyanna about it. They did a good job. We should be, we should recognize when other teams do a good job. And they did. And the reason they did was because of how quick Tua gets rid of the ball. Basically, for the most part, in very simple terms, that is. We may well split with them. Jets and Giants fan says their defense doesn't frighten me, right? The offense does frighten me if Hill is loose. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Their defense, they lost a lot. They have a new coordinator, and we got to see. Maybe they'll be able to put something together, but, I mean, they do have Jalen Ramsey still. They still have some players, but their defense should be worse. I mean, realistically, looking at the roster, should be worse. Plus, a first-time defensive coordinator, people have to get on the same page. May take them a year or two to get the right players that Weaver wants, and so forth and so on. But in theory, yeah, they absolutely should be worse. So we'll see. Maybe that's the whole key to it. We just keep that bad defense on the field. We kick them around, and sure, they gouge us a little bit, and Hill and Waddle score a couple, but maybe we win something like 35-21, something like that. Could be. Aaron says, I don't know. I went to the season finale in Miami 2 years ago, and it was still brutally hot, and they cook the visitor sideline. Yeah, that's true. I guess that's true. But we'll see. Hopefully our offense is just so good that even if our defense has a bad day against somebody like Miami or whoever it might be, it doesn't really matter. If we put up 42 points and the other team scores 28, 28's not great for our defense. But if we score 42, it doesn't really matter, right? So let's hope we see, number one, a competent NFL offense. How important and how great would that be? Hey, we got competence on our team. We can do things like get first downs and stuff, not be 3 and out so much, right? That would be wonderful. And then beyond that, maybe we could actually be good. How great would it be if we were actually a good offense? I mean, how much fun would it be? And by the way, public service announcement, I will be appearing on the game day shows with Green Bean and the crew. I think Jeremy's going to be there. Dom C might make an appearance or two. Might be other special guests, Matt O'Leary, probably popping in at halftime, but I will be joining the Green Bean channel for game days this year. So I'll be still doing my drive charts. Don't you worry. We'll still be drive charting. We're not gonna give that up. But at the same time, we'll be on the Green Bean channel. I guess I could say technology pending. Hopefully this microphone continues to work, opposed to the other one. Stupid bum microphone. And hopefully the camera continues to work, and the internet connection and the browser and all the things we need to broadcast in 2024. Got to work. But pending all of that, I will be joining Green Bean for the actual game. So that'll be exciting. Hopefully you guys will join us over there. That'll be nice to see you all over there during the game, so we could all experience it together. As I do my drive charts, I can tell you all about 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, you name it, personnel, and we can do that. So that's a public service announcement for that. But it's an exciting time because the season is starting. We're 5 days away from the first game of the season. That's going to be amazing. Chiefs and Ravens to start us off. What a game, what a game. I guess we got to root for the Ravens. I mean, really, it doesn't matter. It's just have a good game. But I guess we're rooting for the Ravens in that one just because the Chiefs are the new dynasty. But 5 days away from the NFL season. Can you believe it? It's been a long off season. Indy says our defense will actually be able to pin their ears back and just get after it. Well, yeah. I predict Aaron taking the field for the first time in San Francisco with a lead, the defense scoring first drive. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I think they're going to try to mitigate that. Now, if we get ahead and they need to, for example, like the best way to help our defense would be to jump ahead by 14 points early. Like if we go up 14 nothing, okay. We're okay. Why? Because they're going to need chunk plays. They can't dink and dunk us. You know, they're going to the game plan, in my opinion, we'll see if I'm right. In my opinion, their game plan is going to be quick game, short stuff, dink and dunk, and then runs up the middle for 5-6 yards. You know, up the middle runs on inside zone and duo is a weakness of a wide nine defense. And that's what we run, and that's why we see that. Now, we can mitigate that with better safety play and better linebacker play. But nonetheless, that's what they're going to try to do. That's my opinion. I think that's how they're going to try to attack us. That being said, if they're down 14 nothing, it's a little harder to do that. You need bigger chunk plays. If you need chunk plays, those plays take longer to develop. If those plays take longer to develop, here comes our pass rush. So the best way to help the defense is to have a competent and good offense that gets touchdowns, not field goals. It's another thing to watch early in that game. We want touchdowns, not field goals. And if we go up 14 nothing in the first quarter, say that's going to, I mean, it seems obvious, but that's very good, especially considering our defense and considering how they're going to want to attack us. But when you're down 14, it's harder to do that because that'll just take up too much time, and they're going to want bigger chunk plays. If they want bigger chunk plays, then those take longer to develop. Now here comes our ear spin back and get after it defense. So let's go, Aaron Rodgers. Out of the darkness into the end zone. That's what we want. Harry says, I am excited to hear your insight during the game live stream. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to provide. You know, I think it's a good mix, Harry. You got some people like Green Bean and Jeremy who are sort of like they'll just get excited about the outcome of the play. Well, I will too, but I'll also tell you what we're running, what personnel we're in, what defense we're in, you know, what to watch for based on what we're seeing. I'll give you an example. I was thinking about this, and this is a good thing to think about. I know everybody hates Alan Lazard right now, but but if you're looking for a reason to like Lazard, if you saw the interview by Aaron Rodgers where he was talking about teams basically begging you to run the ball, and Green Bean mentioned this on one of his shows, I think. Aaron Rodgers said, you know, the way things are going in the NFL, teams are basically begging you to run the ball. What was he talking about? Well, what he was talking about is teams have gone to 11 personnel, that means 3 wide receivers, as sort of their base offense. So 3 wide receivers on the field, you know, that's called 11 personnel. Well, when an offense goes to 11 personnel, the defense will typically respond to go to nickel, which means 3 cornerbacks on the field to cover those 3 wide receivers on the field. And so when they're in nickel, that's a light personnel grouping for the defense because there's only 2 linebackers on the field. So if there's only 2 linebackers on the field and 5 defensive backs, wouldn't it be nice to run against that, right? As opposed to having a 3rd linebacker or a 4th linebacker, depending on if they're base 4-3 or 3-4. Now, how do you do that though? Because typically when you run, you want to run out of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, but you're in 11 personnel. You only have 1 tight end on the field. How are you going to run out of 11 personnel? Well, one way to do that is to have a great blocking wide receiver on your team, like Cooper Kupp as an example. Famous example is Cooper Kupp on the Rams, great blocker. Well, just so happens we have a guy. His name is Alan Lazard. And you may not like him as a pass catcher, but he's a hell of a blocker for a wide receiver. So you put him in motion, you put him near the line. Now you have and he's almost the size of a tight end. People forget how big Alan Lazard is. Now you have someone that on both sides of the line where you can run on either side, right? Out of 11. And they're in nickel. They got small personnel, you got big because Lazard is a big Magula and can block. You motion him right near the line, and there he is, and he acts like a tight end, even though he's a wide receiver. So that's what Aaron Rodgers was really talking about. And it comes down to Alan Lazard, because Garrett Wilson's not much of a blocker. Mike Williams, not much of a blocker. Malachi probably might turn into a good blocker at some point, but he's young, he's a rookie. The guy we want blocking is Lazard. So that's a place where you could see Lazard excelling. So if you want a reason to be optimistic, why is he on this team? I hate Alan Lazard. Drops too many balls. Yeah, but he can block. And so that's going to help our running game. So there you go. That could be something that you look for. Right, that is what makes, yeah. And then you have a mix, right, Harry? You got the excitement, the hype up people, Green Bean and Jeremy, the people who are just reacting, and then you got the people giving you the information, like me and Dom. I think it's a good mix. Indy says, I don't know about this, Indy. The best technical breakdown? No. I do an okay job. There's people who do better. I'll give you an example. Somebody you guys might not like, but Grant Cohn. So if you want to understand the wide nine defense, for example, there's an old video of Grant Cohn breaking it down. Grant Cohn is the YouTuber who does the 49ers. Very popular, but some people don't like his style or whatever. And I was surprised when I was searching the internet for this that he has a very good technical breakdown of the wide nine defense. This was done about 5 years ago when Saleh was bringing in the wide nine to the 49ers. So that's a video you may want to find on YouTube if you want to understand it. And it applies directly to what the Jets do. It directly applies because Saleh was bringing it in over there. Saleh's our guy here. We do the same things. Everything he talks about in that video is applicable to us. Roger's here. Good to see you, Roger. Just laying around, listening. Well, why are you laying around, Roger? It's time to get up and do some work. We need work to be done, Roger. You think I'm laying around? I passed my exam yesterday. I was studying Friday night, Saturday morning, during every night studying, take an exam on a Saturday, pass it, and then I start studying for the next exam. You think I'm laying around, Roger? We got to get to work. There's stuff to do, Roger. Laying around. There's no time for laying around, Roger. I'm just kidding with you, man. Indy says, did you see the Jets video at Jets practice when they bought the puppies? Yeah, I did see. I made a comment on X. You should be following me on X if you're not. I made a comment on X. The Jets posted about this, and I said, this is the football content we need to see with all the cute puppies. I mean, nobody can argue with a puppy and its cuteness. Yeah, Joe Blewett does a much better job than me. A lot of people do a much better job. Brett Coleman. I do an okay job. I try to make it simple so people understand. But also, I don't know everything. I know what I know and stuff. But there's people who know way more than me, including Joe Blewett, even Robbie Sabo. I would say Brett Coleman. And what I learned from that video from Grant Cohn, I was surprised he knew about the sort of the technique aspect of football. I didn't know he knew that. But he does. And it's like a 30-minute breakdown of the wide nine defense by Grant Cohn. So Grant Cohn probably knows more than me. Dom C, on parallel with me. There's a lot of people who do a better job than I do. But, puppy's up there for adoption. Indy says, I heard it took Lazard 3 takes not to drop that puppy. Oh, okay. Recovering. Okay, I take it back, Roger. I was just messing with you anyways. Recover then. Don't get up. Don't get up. If you're recovering from surgery, take it easy. Take it easy. I take it back. I mean, maybe you could figure out a way to do some work from one of those things that they from your bed, like when they serve you breakfast in bed, you get one of those things. Do some work that way. But otherwise, just recover. Keep it safe. Sometimes sometimes you do gotta take it easy. Sometimes you gotta take it easy. So take it easy, Roger. Recover from the surgery. All right, let me know if there's any other questions. Main news we're going to get really is about the fact that the league is starting its, pretty much starting Tuesday, we're going to get into our normal NFL cycle of days when you have press conferences, injury reports, this and that, practice days. Salah comes to the press conference, this and that. We're going to get into the normal cycle starting on Tuesday. So here we go. The season is starting. We're getting going. We're starting on the season. Hopefully it's going to be a fun season. Starts on Thursday. Hopefully I pass my test, my last test by Saturday. That way I get everything done test-wise before the season starts. So wish me luck on that. But otherwise, we'll be back next Sunday, 10 a.m. to cover it all. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming by. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already, and please subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. We are trying to get this channel up to 1 million subscribers. Actually, 100 would be nice. So please.